Welcome back to the KinetiQ Podcast, where we get to bring on guests weekly, just really to talk about what life in motion, mind and balance truly means for them. And we, in the launch of this, realized it would make sense to introduce the founders, myself, Allie, and Bailey. So last week I was in the hot seat. This week it is Bailey in the hot seat. So I get to pick his brain and bring out some of the drive and passions that he has for what brought KinetiQ together and brought it to life. With us as a team, but where does it all root from? Where are we going with it? What's the stories that brought us to who we are today? So here we are.
Awesome.
So really just to share the mindset of what it is and go from there. So just to introduce who you are as a human, this whole thing, we just keep joking. We're obviously biased. We are each other's favorite people. Planning to marry this man. So I already know all of these stories, but my goal for today is to bring out the heart that lives behind, the bits and pieces that I think a lot of people don't always get to see, but is there. And so, with that, I think we'll just start at the roots. I do know you have a very adorable story of where your athletic drive started for you. So can you tell us a little about that?
I guess. Sure. How far back do you want to go? I mean,
I'm just thinking of the one with the, description of.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know. I was always an athletic kid, and I'm very lucky to have super supportive parents growing up. And their main stance for my brothers and I'm the oldest of three boys, and the biggest goal for them was that they wanted to set us up to be successful in whatever avenue we chose for our life. So, the attitude in our house was, I don't care what you do, but you're going to be the best at it, or at least the best that you can be at it. And with that, to kind of set us up for success, we all started basically as soon as we could walk. We did mommy and me gymnastics class, just at the local gymnastics gym in Clemens, North Carolina, of all places where I grew up. Yeah, that I really enjoyed it. I loved running around, doing flips and climbing on things as every active kid would. And that kind of evolved when I my first vivid memories of wanting to really compete or do something at a high level athletically. I was 4 years old watching the 2004 Olympics, the men's gymnastics Olympics, and a man by the name of Paul Hamm won Olympic gold for the United States, and I thought that was amazing and inspiring. And I remember watching his floor routine, doing cartwheels across the carpet, thinking that was the coolest thing ever, and decided I want to be an Olympic gymnast. And 4 or 5-year-old Bailey, like every kid gets starstruck, but I pretty quickly kind of shocked everybody because I got real serious about it. I was not a serious kid at all. I just played, wanted to make stuff, I wanted to run around. And my parents said, okay, well, what would it take? What does that actually look like? If this kid seems serious, I know you got to start at this age if you're going to get there. Where does it go? And so I pretty quickly, did a couple triathlons as young as 4, played baseball, t-ball, other kid sports that everybody plays, just to explore and see what's out there in the world of sports. But gymnastics, the one that stuck immediately, ended up at a gym called Flip Force Gymnastics, where by 6 or 7 years old, I was on a competitive team training 15, 16, 17 hours a week in the gym, basically 2 or 3 or 4 hours a night, every night after second, third grade. And then that all kind of led to up until about the 4th grade, I believe. I had been to, I was a state champion at some point. I forget what event, but at some low level. Had been to a national invitational in Las Vegas, had done a bunch of stuff in gymnastics, even at an early age, and a really, really serious competitive program. But by the time I got into the 4th grade, I started having friends that were doing all these cool things. And my entire life was school, gym, back to school, back to the gym. I'd wake up at 6:30 in the morning to go to school. We'd drive straight from school to the gym. I'd be there for 3 hours. Wouldn't get home till like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, and then I'd have to do homework and go to bed at 10 years old. And I had friends that were playing guitar and playing other sports and had social lives. And while they were racking up fun experiences, I was racking up, overuse injuries. Like my shoulder is still something I deal with today. I got, developed those problems on rings and pommel horse when I was 8, 9 years old. So that's kind of when I shifted into some other sports, which I'm sure we'll get into. But gymnastics is really what I can credit most of my athletic success to because of the event, the foundation it gave me, not just in flexibility, mobility, coordination, strength, and all that. I like to joke that I peaked athletically in the 3rd grade, but not true. We're doing cool things now. But it really set me up for success. Really taught me where the limits actually are, what your body's actually capable of from a work volume standpoint, and from a really just what your body's capable of, even at such a young age. That really set me up for success through other sports. I think
spatial awareness and
absolutely
body awareness.
It's things that I mean, we'll get into it like probably later on too, but a lot of my success on the mountain bike I credit to my early gymnastics experience. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my foundation. There's a lot of other stuff I did in between, but that was at least chapter 1 of Bailey being a serious athlete. Started pretty early.
So that discipline and focus started at a really young age for you.
Oh yeah, I had the Russian coach, the whole 9. Like we had, I'll joke, we used to have, I literally had a Russian gymnastics coach that would smack your feet if they came unpointed, like, and yell at you and point your toe. We joke about it all the time. His name was Sasha, great guy. Probably, I don't know. I was 6, 7. I thought he was interesting, but all of the stories you hear about, like intense, like training children for Olympic gymnastics. Like I was there. I was in it. It was that was the gym to go to in the area if you wanted to make it. And it was like we had what we called Crybaby Tuesdays, where we'd have be a 3-hour gymnastics practice after school, and about an hour of that would be strength training, about an hour of that would be stretching. And by stretching, I do mean grown men sitting on your back, pulling your legs up, stretching your muscles so that you can actually get splits and get pancakes, like a pancake when your legs are spread and you have to put your chest to the floor.
Yeah.
If you couldn't do that, my 175-pound gymnastics coach, full grown man, would come sit on my back and pull my ankles up to stretch to physically stretch my muscles.
And at the end of the day, this was entirely your choice.
100%. No, it was what it took. I knew that this was what it took to achieve that goal or see if I could.
Yeah.
And it went all the way back to that kid doing cartwheels across the floor at 4 years old, saying I want to compete on the internet. And in some, it was at that point, it was gymnastics. It was, the goal was I want to be an Olympic gymnast. And the bigger goal beyond that has morphed into that I still chase today is I want to compete at what is the highest level of athletic competition and performance I can achieve as a human.
What does that mean for you, really? Is that just to push your limits?
Absolutely. I just want to see where I can get to. I don't. I talk about this with racing, and at least in my experiences racing so far with downhill is like, winning the race on the day in an amateur category doesn't really matter to me as much as how far off the top guys am I? How far off the World Cup guys am I? How far am I from the top of this sport, and is that attainable?
Yeah.
So when I say like I don't care about winning an amateur mountain bike race, it's not that I don't care about winning. Don't get me wrong. Bailey hates losing as much as the next guy, but to me, it's a much bigger goal and a much longer term drive that I have than just any one event. So, and all of that kind of goes back to, again, that 4-year-old kid that wants to compete at the international level at the Olympics. So I'm clearly not an Olympic gymnast. That has come and gone. And I've chased a couple other sports on my way to finding mountain biking, which I'm sure is the story we're going to get into.
Part of the transition.
But that's kind of been the overarching goal, is to find a sport that I love and chase it to the highest level that is attainable. And I get to make the decision on what's achievable, not anybody else.
Yeah.
So.
And then transitioning from that to being eventually then becoming an NCAA lacrosse player, to then falling in love with mountain biking. Like, let's just wrap up how that actually all,
Sure.
Why your heart led you to lacrosse, why your heart then led you to mountain biking instead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about, for you, it's a lot about the athletic pursuit, but when we ride bikes together, it's all about fun. So far, all of this has sounded like really serious athletic drive, but at the end of the day, we all know it's because.
But it's because I loved it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love gymnastics.
Yeah,
it was. I was able to take it seriously when the work needed to be done to take it seriously, but it was fun. I loved learning how to do giants and swing all the way around high bar, and like how to do an iron cross like you see on the Olympics on the rings. Like I figured that out when I was 8. I probably couldn't do it at my current body weight, but that was cool, like doing backflips, learning how to tumble. That shit was so fun. Just climbing on stuff, running around the gym,
Yeah.
and then also being able to lock into a routine and perform. You had both sides of the coin there, where you could enjoy the activity, enjoy just the freedom of movement, but then also have a goal you're striving for and be able to lock in on game day or on competition day and really try to like put your best and lead it, give you the thing to train for too. Without that focus, you're just goofing off,
Sure.
kind of in parallel to my gymnastics days and a little bit beyond. My dad was really into triathlons. He kind of rode the big triathlons were really, really popular in the early 2000s when I was growing up. And especially it was the same years that Lance Armstrong was in the Tour de France. So like road cycling and triathlon all was super popular in our household, especially. And my family helped run a sprint triathlon for, I think we did 12 events over the span of about 10 years in North Carolina and Virginia.
And that had a special heart behind it too, if you wanted to share more on what was behind, like what the foundation was really built on for.
So that was an event that came around where my dad's mother, I've never met my grandmother. My dad's mother died when he was a senior in college, I believe. And that was something that weighed heavily on his heart. And he always wanted to do something to kind of memorialize her and really give her a legacy and give us kids also a way of learning about our grandmother that we never got to meet. She was a school teacher, so the triathlon really came about after there was the 3 brothers that my dad was really good friends with up in Lynchburg, Virginia, where my mom's family is. And one of the brothers lost their daughter in a car wreck, same way my dad lost his mother. And then as a way for everybody to kind of bond over that grief and build something bigger than themselves, my dad helped start and run the Angels Race, which was a sprint distance triathlon. But what made it special was instead of just writing your own race number on your arm, you'd race for somebody that you lost or an angel that you were carrying with you throughout the race. Was the whole idea of it. And then it was all an effort to raise money for, mostly schools, giving back resources to schools, education tools for teachers in public schools. Because Brittany was in high school when she passed away, and my dad's mom, of course, was a school teacher as well. And so I grew up around that. I remember there's probably pictures of me somewhere like 3 years old. I think the first race was in 2003, or was it 2001? Either way, I was tiny when they started, and I was always like assistant race director helping my dad every step of the way. So I was very close to that event and that organization throughout my entire childhood. It happened every year, and then for a few years we did 2. We did one in Virginia and one in North Carolina, which was a lot. And I saw the work that went into that, and it was this really special experience, committing an athletic act to something greater than just yourself or your own desires, and being a part of something bigger than yourself. Because there was this magical energy around that event every year that I'm like getting emotional, because everybody got to kind of bond together through this like athletic event over people that they lost, and kind of got to bond over grief through movement and through athleticism through this journey of a triathlon. And it sounds silly now, but it was this crazy magical thing that I can't even explain. And Uncle David, one of the 3 brothers that my dad was friends with, every year, every race, he would start everybody in the pool, and he would yell out, he'd count you down, and he'd count down, 3, 2, 1. He wouldn't say your name to go. He'd say whoever you were racing for. So if it was your grandma, your mom, your dad, your sibling, whoever you had lost, whoever you were trying to represent and race with, they were on that race with you. And it was this really powerful, I'm like getting way emotional here. It's crazy just how
Thank you for sharing it. I mean, I knew it was deep and impactful, and
super. And that's where I grew up with that, and where sports and athleticism
movement is something so much more.
It's so rich and spiritual to me, in a way that I never really realized. Like being an athlete is so much more to me than just wearing a jersey and competing. It's it's a way of life. It's like, I'm not saying and it goes beyond just like the need to move and stay active. It like is a core. I've seen what it can do to change communities, and I see what it does through every community I've been a part of. I think it's so important for us in life to commit ourselves to something bigger than ourselves, especially now in a world that is so divisive. Like, we got to find something to stick together over and pump each other up on. And sports is just an amazingly powerful vehicle for that. So anyways, I got really into triathlons because of all of that.
Yeah.
So this was kind of right after gymnastics. I found lacrosse right after gymnastics, and we'll circle back. But once I kind of realized, okay, I'm 10 years old. I've got overuse injuries in my shoulder. I've got a long life left, and it's not really worth it to me. I started like logically looking at what gymnastics would look like and what the sacrifice would be. And a lot of those guys peak athletically and physically in their like late teens, early 20s. Whether you make if you make the Olympics, awesome. If you don't, maybe you get a D1 scholarship and get to compete till you're 22, and then your body's pretty beat up and you kind of just struggle to maintain as long as you can. And I wanted more than that. And I was already having, like I said, overuse injuries and whatnot. So like, again, this is just where I was, I don't know, broken's the wrong word, but I was just a very intense.
Started to say there wasn't longevity in the sport.
Yeah. And I, again, from 4, had this drive to compete at the highest level in whatever I was doing. And so through coming up through the triathlons, I realized gymnastics isn't going to be my long-term thing. It's time for me to step away and find something else. Triathlon was the next available thing. We had bikes as kids, and I didn't really do much with them. I did some kids triathlons and whatnot, but never did anything resembling like what I do on a mountain bike now. I just rode bikes around for fun as kids around the backyard, around the neighborhood, and then I'd race triathlons here and there. And so my next goal, I was probably 9 years old when I did you had to be 9 years old to do a relay, to be a part of a relay team at the Angels race. And so I knew that I wanted to, I loved helping my dad with the event on the management side as a kid, being his sidekick, but I really wanted to participate in the event because I saw how rich and meaningful that was. And I just wanted to be a part of it. I didn't want to be on the sidelines and support it. I wanted to be a part of it as a participant, as an athlete. And so you had to be 9 years old to do a relay for the Angels race, and you had to be 11 to do the whole thing. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to be a part of a relay team when I'm 9 and when I'm 10, and you had to be 11 to do the bike part. So I swam when I was 9. I did the run. I did the 5K when I was 10, and when I was 11, I did the whole race. I did the whole sprint triathlon at 11 years old. And then I was like, okay, this triathlon thing is kind of fun. Where does this go? What is this? What other, at this point I've done the first couple milestones at the youngest possible age. What are the next milestones? I was like, oh, well, you've got to be 12 to do an open water swim triathlon. You got to be 13 to do an Olympic distance triathlon. You got to be 15 to do a half Ironman. You got to be 18 to do a full Ironman. And so crazy 9-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, Bailey, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna knock all those down. I'm gonna hit all those milestones. I want to do every distance triathlon at the youngest possible age. And I got close. I got until we shifted gears and focused on lacrosse, but I did a sprint at 11. I did an open water sprint triathlon at 12, and then I did an Olympic distance triathlon at 13. And I think I was the youngest finisher or participant at that Olympic distance triathlon by 6 years. The next youngest participant was a 19-year-old woman who was on the junior Olympic team. So that felt kind of cool. I'm like, okay, I'm doing stuff at a pretty young age. I'm pretty active. I'm kind of ahead of the game. I liked that feeling. And probably would have kept going, except I was getting really into this sport called lacrosse. I'd never heard of it. My parents had never heard of it. We lived in North Carolina, not Maryland or Long Island or one of these hotbed areas. But when I transferred elementary schools, after I left gymnastics, some of my newest core friends were like really into the sport called lacrosse, and they'd bring their lacrosse sticks to recess and they'd throw around with, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. They had these really cool sticks and they could throw and catch. I just thought it was awesome. I was like, you guys beat the crap out of each other with these things and run around. And, I just was fascinated by the sport. And very quickly got pretty stuck deep into that. I got on a recreational team, and then I got on the travel team that same year. Again, I think my foundational fitness from gymnastics really carried over really naturally and helped me get into that. But pretty quickly, I realized was trying to, there's a lot of tough sports specific skills that come with lacrosse. It's like very non-natural movements that you have to learn how to actually throw and catch. The stick skills alone are pretty steep learning curve, but my athleticism was good. And then I got into my second or third year, and it's the beginning of the rec season. I'm probably in 5th grade, I think. And it's like first practice of the year in the spring, and they're like, all right, they just randomly dealt out people on teams, regardless of position. You'd kind of play whatever position you liked, and there wasn't a goalie on the team. And our coach was like, all right, who wants to play goalie? And everybody kind of looked around, because everybody wants to score goals. Nobody wants to be the guy getting, rubber rocks chucked at you. And then his second sentence out of his mouth was, you get to play the whole game. It's like, oh, I don't have to take turns. I don't have to like run shifts as a midfielder, and like I can be on the field the whole time and like get to actually play the whole time instead of just, sign me up. I'm in. And I had pretty good reaction. My hands were fast. I had really good eye-hand coordination. I had really good flexibility. I was really agile from gymnastics, and it made me a really good lacrosse goalie right out of the gate. And I chased that. I studied how to be the best lacrosse goalie, and for 10 years made that my athletic drive was. And this, I kind of did both for a couple years in parallel with the triathlons, and then was running a lot. I was doing a lot of endurance sports with triathlons, ran cross country in middle school. And then my freshman year of high school was running cross country. And it kind of came down to what are your priorities athletically? Because whether you know a lot about lacrosse or not, a 13-year-old kid that weighs 100 pounds and can run, a sub 20-minute 5K isn't going to do so well on the varsity lacrosse team in the spring playing against 200-pound, 18-year-olds, especially when most of your job during the game is to stand in a circle. So it didn't really benefit me to be able to run 10 miles, 12 miles at a time. So
finding the balance.
Yeah, finding that balance. And that was where I figured I kind of had to give up the endurance sports for a while, and really try to focus on strength and agility, and really, really start to master not just lacrosse as a sport, but that position as a goalie in lacrosse. It's a very unique position. Hockey is similar, where it's I guess any sport, the goaltender is like soccer, hockey, lacrosse, all of those, like it's its own sport. You can't really relate it to anything else, any other position on the field. And so the goal was to play Division I in college, or at least to get a scholarship to play in college. And, after, I won't go into all of the complications of recruiting and that whole process, but when I was again given the option to kind of walk on at a Division I program, or be a recruited athlete on a Division III program, similar to when I started playing goalie, I said, where can I play? I could have earned, several Division I programs were interested in me because I was good academically too. They said, shoot, dude, if you can get in, you've got good grades. I feel like you'll get into the school. We've already got our guys committed for your recruiting class, but you've got the skills. We'd love to have you on the team if you can get into the school. There were several D1 programs that was kind of the story for, but I elected to go to a Division III school on a scholarship to play lacrosse, and because I could play. And really, I just wanted to. I don't want to be on the sidelines.
Sure.
I want to be in the game, which took me all the way to college. Now that kind of took me all the way up through until kind of my first couple years playing in college.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and then I know a big piece was that you started to realize, once you were there, you were playing, you realized you actually compromised your dream for what you actually wanted to study versus going to school just to play the sport. So I know there was a big shift there. And so when you did transfer, like the background of just actually wanting to let your life's work be stuff about building something for people, what you're studying. Mm-hmm. So kind of diving into that, degree that you chased instead, but then also at the same time, like when you transferred, that opening the doors to then finding mountain biking, and then also seeing the higher perspective too of you pretty much just wanted a sport that you were always playing.
Pretty much.
And then so finding mountain bikes seems to make complete sense with that full picture.
Absolutely. So I'll see if I can give you the quick run through to get there. Going all the way back as a kid, go back to that 4-year-old kid. I just wanted to play, but just as much as I just wanted to play, I just wanted to make stuff. I was the kid that I wanted cardboard and duct tape for Christmas. I didn't care about toys as much. I just wanted to make things. I was literally just as happy with like scissors, a hot glue gun, cardboard, duct tape in my imagination. I had a blast. I made all kinds of stuff. I think by the time I was 12, I had a whole wood shop just accrued over. It was like, what do you want for Christmas, Bailey? A jigsaw? Okay. I want a wood lathe so I can turn Harry Potter wands for my friends. Like that was non-athletic Bailey, this creative mind of just, I want to make things for people. I want to create things for people. And from a young age, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, pro athlete, if I can. And then like, if that's not feasible, because that's, I'll do my best, but that's not a career. I was told that's not really a career. Which, in hindsight, I probably could have challenged that, but whatever. I had this creative drive and need to create things for people also. And so I could define what I wanted my dream job to be far longer before I knew what it was. But I used to say, when I grow up, I want to take somebody's idea for a business or a product. I want to understand that problem and design and develop a product that is a solution for that problem, and then set them up with manufacturers so that they can then make the product commercially available to everybody. And what I didn't realize was, I was like, is that art? Is that engineering? Am I an inventor? No, that's what I didn't realize until I was probably 16, was that I was defining industrial design. That is what the field of industrial design is at its core. It is finding a human problem that can be solved with a physical product and designing that product from its functionality, its ergonomics, its aesthetics, its brand, everything, so that it is commercially viable and then also manufacturable, and then setting that up for success in the market. And so that really is a deep study into human factors, ergonomics, like the psychology of people and how we interact with products. And that goes all the way back to when I was, making Harry Potter ones for my friends, or making duct tape wallets in the back of 6th grade that I was selling for $5 a pop. Like, I just wanted to make things for people, even painting. I mean, there's some of my paintings right there. Because again, we didn't really know, is this thing that I want to do? Is it art? Is it engineering? And so my junior year of high school, I took AP Physics, AP Calculus, AP Three-Dimensional Art. And it was like, somewhere in there's the thing you're trying to define, and we don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out. And my AP Art professor sent me to SCAD over the summer for a summer intensive for this thing called industrial design, which is what I just defined, which was what I wanted to do. And then this discovery was part of what made the lacrosse recruiting process so difficult. Was I wanted to go to school and study industrial design and become an industrial designer, and I wanted to play Division I lacrosse. When you overlay those two things, there are 3 Division I programs. There are 3 Division I schools that have, respectable industrial design programs. And that, let's just say, by the time you're a junior year in high school, that's a really hard thing to pigeonhole yourself into. So it kind of came down to this decision of, well, do I chase lacrosse or do I chase industrial design? Something's going to be compromised here. And so the initial idea was, I can go to a small liberal arts school, get a great foundational education, and play lacrosse at a high level, and actually play lacrosse at a high level. The level of that sport at the Division III level is crazy. Very close to Division I in terms of just the quality of play in the sport. And so the idea was, I'm going to go be a math art double major, and I'm going to study studio art and mathematics, both paired, and then get a concentration in graphic design as well, and then take that and get my master's afterwards, kind of taking that academic path. And I got through my first year. I got through my freshman year and really enjoyed it. Put on a bunch of weight because my coach said, Bailey, you're too scrawny to be a NCAA lacrosse goalie. We need you to bulk up. We don't need you running 5-minute miles. We need you, stopping more shots and being more physically demanding on the field. So, okay, put on a bunch of weight, got bulked up over the summer and really got to explore kind of what that was going to mean, and really had a lot of time to think about this path that I'd chosen. Lacrosse season's in the spring, so after our fall, like month or two that we get to practice together, I kind of realized I'd kind of done what I wanted to do with lacrosse, and I saw, the goal is to play college lacrosse. I've achieved that. Like, I played my freshman year. I got to be a NCAA student athlete. Phenomenal experience. I could go on a 4-hour podcast just about that. Taught me tons of things that I use to this day. But I started to kind of realize, like, I'm spending a lot of money to go to this private school in Maryland, and I'm not getting the degree that I want immediately. Like, I started thinking about the bigger picture and about what the career is going to look like, what long-term finances are going to look like. Paying for college is going to be a pain in the butt if I can't pay it back. Yeah, we could go into the numbers and we don't need to, but as I started seeing the writing on the wall with, like, okay, how much is lacrosse really worth here? Like, best case scenario, like, I wasn't going to go pro. And at that point, there wasn't even really a pro league worth trying to get into. The PLL hadn't been started yet. It was still really small. So even had I really ground through for 4 years and tried to make it in lacrosse, and, like, I could have peaked later and improved through my 4 years in college and gotten better and earned possibly a spot on our pro team. But even, I think at that point, there were less than a dozen guys that were full-time lacrosse players professionally post-college. Most guys that were professional lacrosse players at that time had full-time jobs, and it was glorified beer league, And so I was like, okay, well, that's not really anything much to strive for. And especially the big exclamation point on the end of my lacrosse career was I got to compete internationally. Every other year, the winning team in Japan, in the Japanese College Lacrosse League, gets flown over to the United States to play some games in the fall, in the off season. And they come and play a couple D3 schools, and then they go get their butts kicked by like Towson, Maryland, Johns Hopkins, some of the big Division I programs. And so we got to play, it wasn't the University of Tokyo. We got to play I got to compete internationally in that sport that I had dedicated over a decade to. So I got that experience. I came home for Thanksgiving, back to North Carolina, and I'm talking over my options and trying to figure things out. I'm like, man, I'm not really sure that this path is where I want to go I don't think this is how I want to spend my next 3 years. I don't know that this is setting me up for much, specifically in the direction of the career that I want to build and the skills that I want to build. And, mom, as moms do, had been doing all this research online. And she goes, Appalachian State University down the street, where I swore I'd never go when I was in high school.
It's got down the street. It was still a couple of
hour and a half from where I grew up. Home. I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Boone was about an hour and a half away. And I swore up and down in high school that I would never go to App State because it was known as, like, the stoner school, I was like, no, I'm a serious athlete. I don't do those things. And I was like, no, I saw a bunch of hippies. Like, and then, you grow up. I was 16. Of course I thought, whatever, closed-minded teenager, everybody's got something. But I get home for Thanksgiving after my sophomore fall. And mom goes, hey, hear me out. Appalachian State up the road, they've got a, like, number 6 in the country ranked industrial design program, and you could pay in-state tuition. And so I was like, okay, I'll drive up there. I'll check it out. And I went and visited, and I fell in love with the mountains. I just absolutely fell in love with Boone, with App State, with everything there. Absolutely fell in love with it there. And the studio, I got to meet the professors, and my jaw was on the floor for the whole time I was there. State-of-the-art design studios, really, really strong industrial design program that, again, taught me skills I use, to this day with everything I do. And so I left McDaniel, and spring of 2019, I started at App State studying industrial design. And the very first person I met, my first day of class, I'm wearing a McDaniel College lacrosse shirt, and I walk into my first industrial design class on Monday, the first day of classes. I sit across from this guy named David Powell, who is from Maryland. He's like, oh, Maryland, that's cool. Are you from there? I'm from there. It's like, no, but I just went to school there. Long story short, a couple months later, David and I hit it off, become like best friends in college. We had all the same classes. We went snowboarding every other night. And then spring rolls around, summer rolls around. I find out he's like really into this thing called mountain biking. I'm like, well, I used to ride bikes. Is that not this? Nope. Apparently not the same thing. I had no idea. I had nothing. I had no idea. The only bike experience that I had at this point, I was like 20 years old, I think, at this point. My only bike experience had been a couple triathlons here and there, and growing up around the driveway. Like I never, nothing. And then that June, that summer, once it became after snow season, I got taken to Beach Mountain. Got David Powell and Pat Looney, who you guys will meet next week on the podcast. Pat Looney from Squatch, who's now our mechanic and helps us out a bunch. David and Pat put me on a rental bike that summer at Beach Mountain, and I, t-shirt, jeans, running shoes, the whole nine, rental, full face. I was the freaking Jerry on the hill, trying to chase them around. I think I probably rode nothing but the green trail, and I think I crashed at least once every lap and was like more beaten up. I grew up with like baseball-sized welts on my legs and bruises all the time from being a lacrosse goalie. And I somehow went home that day more beat up than I was after a brutal lacrosse game. And was uninjured because thankfully I have good spatial awareness and knew how to crash and tuck and roll from gymnastics.
Bike, but at least you knew.
I didn't know how to ride a bike, but at least I knew how to crash and fall and hit the ground and not get hurt. So that was cool. And I hated it. I was like, man, this sucks. I'm so bad at this, but it was fun to suck at something again too. And I was like, man, I don't know, but that was something. The sport sure is interesting. And then a month later, I got a bike. And then a month after that, Pat and David took me to Snowshoe to watch the 2019 Downhill World Cup. And for anybody that follows downhill knows what a monumental historic race that was. But what really struck me about that experience was I get into the sport of mountain biking and everybody's so friendly. And, I did play team sports for over a decade with lacrosse, but I was very much an individual on the field. Like, they said
you really were.
Yeah, it's a unique position. So like I'm really the only one on the field doing it's a very individual position in a team sport. They call it like, they'll refer to the lacrosse goalies as like the quarterback of the defense, because you have to have eyes out and basically directing traffic all over to see where everything's going on defense. But really it's an individual position. And there were games in lacrosse, plenty, that normal lacrosse scores are around 10 or 12. I lost plenty of lacrosse games growing up, and even in college that we lost 4-5. I did my job. I only let in a couple goals, and the team lost. And with downhill, there was this sport where it's just you, the trail, your bike, and the clock. And the magic is that if something goes wrong, if you don't get the result, if you don't win, the only person you have to blame is yourself. Period. If you get a mechanical, that's on you. Take care of your stuff. If you crash, if you go offline, if you didn't prepare, if you didn't train properly, it's on you. Nobody else can screw up your race run.
Yeah. And
that was really interesting to me. But what was even more, what really made me fall, like that was cool. But from being that, like you said, I just looked for sports that I could play all the time growing up. That's what gymnastics was. That's why I liked being a goalie.
We talked about it last week. It's the same reason as to why I transitioned from BMX race to freestyle and then mountain biking.
Absolutely.
Racing, you were there and you had to sit around and wait all day until you can go on the track because it's your race round. And outside of that, you weren't really, outside of practice, you could ride a ton, but, downhill, you get to party lap all day. And
exactly.
Everything else, it's just.
And we would just go.
You get to do more of the thing you love.
Exactly. And that's where I grew up surfing a lot. And not a lot, but whenever we were at the beach, I'd go surfing. I couldn't just sit on the beach. Again, I'm an active kid. I had to do something. Like it was like fishing or surfing. I was like, screw fishing. I'm not sitting around. I'm going surfing. And the bliss you feel when you're on a surfboard, you're just out in the middle of the ocean, separated from everything, alone in the water, at complete peace while these massive mountains of water just rise and fall with you on top of them. And every once in a while, you get to catch one of those and you just get the gnarliest adrenaline rush ever for like 4 or 5 seconds. And then you just have a supper fest to get back out and earn another moment of bliss followed by a moment of adrenaline. And I found that with mountain biking also. You go on a trail ride and you're just disconnected. You're out in the woods. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the top. You struggle. The climbing sucks. And you struggle to get up to the top of the climb. If you're out of shape, it's going to suck even harder. But it'll get you in shape. And you get to the top, and there's this moment of bliss where it's silent. And you're standing on top of a mountain with your friends or what, and it's just quiet. And it's peaceful. And you're away from the world. And you're just alone with your thoughts. Mm-hmm. You can just breathe. And then you drop into the trail and have the gnarliest adrenaline rush ever. Yep. And just get to play and bounce and jump and hop your way down and ride all the way down the trail. And so mountain biking was fun for me. From that, that was kind of my intro to mountain biking. Was David and Pat put me on a mountain bike at beach, and I was like, cool, you get to sit on the chairlift and it does the climb for you, and then you still get the bliss at the top and the adrenaline on the way down. That's neat. But we'd go on a lot of trail rides together, and I got to have that experience. And I drew this parallel of like, I always thought I was a beach kid, not a mountain kid. I never really liked the mountains growing up. And then as soon as I got to app, I was like, that switched. And then as soon as I got to pull the parallel from surfing, I was like, oh, that's awesome. I don't have to wait for good waves to be able to go ride my bike. This is cool. Because growing up in North Carolina, the waves are so hit or miss. So the trails here are always good. And then they brought me to the World Cup, and I got to see what, again, back to that 4-year-old kid in the living room doing cartwheels across the floor. I got to witness what the top of the top level of this sport looks like. Mm-hmm. Like, we're talking, Red Bull TV, the whole, like, the top of the sport. And to just be there, it's almost hard to describe. It's unlike anything I ever imagined being accessible. So I guess that's really the word. I was so impressed by how accessible the sport was at all levels. To 6 months prior, I didn't know jack about this. I didn't know the sport really existed. I was like, mountain biking, that's a thing. Yeah. Like I had no knowledge of it. I had no idea.
I didn't know mountain biking was this cool until 2 years ago.
And I didn't know anything about the racing scene of World Cups and how big really the sport is at an international level. But what really impressed me that weekend at Snowshoe was being able to be a part of that at such a high level. Mm-hmm. Be like right next to the greats, the LeBron James, the Michael Jordan of the sport. Were like pretty close, just like he's right there riding down the trail right in front of me. That is wicked cool. I just showed up at this ski resort in the summer, and there's the best in the world doing really impressive stuff in this sport that I just got introduced to that I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. And beyond that was the last race of the season, and the overall title for the season came down to that race. Mm-hmm. And so there's this big historic story that you guys can look up, 2019 Snowshoe Mountain Bike Downhill World Cup. There's some videos that illustrate it beautifully on YouTube. But anyways, it's this big title fight between these two guys, basically the two top of the sport, trying to fight for this overall title. And the race was unreal. Really cool to be a part of that environment. But we're walking around the village in Snowshoe later that evening, and everybody's just out and about. The racers are just out hanging out with everybody, just being a part of the community. And I remember meeting Amri Piron and Loic Bruni, the two guys that were fighting for that title. And both of them asked me how my day was. I was like, I'm nobody. I didn't know what this sport was 6 months ago. You just won this title. What do you mean, how was my day? No, like, this is, why do you keep, like, but you would never go to an NBA basketball game as somebody that just learned about the sport of basketball and is interested in what this might look like. Want to go see what it is like at the highest level, and then be approached by LeBron James and say, hey, how was your day? Are you enjoying the sport?
Yeah.
And that's the I've experienced that level of hospitality throughout mountain biking.
Mm-hmm. That was just
over the last, of it. That was exactly like my first time getting to observe what is the pinnacle of this sport at the highest level. And again, it was accessible.
Yeah.
And then I started asking questions, and I was like, okay, well, how old are these people? How tall? Like, it was hard for me. I'm only 5'10", so it was hard for me to be the lacrosse goal is 6 feet tall. By the time you squat down, there's a lot of room. I was a little too short to be a Division I goalie, even though I was skilled. And then the other thing is, I'm getting into a sport at 21 years old. Like, is there a chance of me competing at a high level here? Because again, still, and deep down, I'm still that 4-year-old kid that wants to compete at the highest level, no matter what it means. And the answer is to both of those things, where it doesn't matter. Give it a shot. I saw guys that the guy that won that race that day was 5'3", and the greatest of all time is like 6'4", and there's everybody in between. There's guys on the World Cup circuit that race their first. They're few and far between now, but Roger Vieira is a good example now. He's 30 years old and just got his first factory ride. There are guys that race their first World Cup at 30 years old. And so it's a long shot, don't get me wrong, but that paired with the hospitality I feel from even the best in the sport, you realize they're just people. We're all just people. They're just grown up kids that like riding bikes.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to bikes. I got introduced to mountain biking, and I got introduced to the pinnacle of the sport and the guys at the very, very top. And it's so welcoming.
Sure.
You can go, there's not many other sports where you can go buy a factory level, pro level equipment from the shop down the road or off the website online and race against the best on the same trail on the same day. So,
opportunity.
And shout out to Clay Harper with the US Open has made that possible. There's other people like Nico at Downhill Southeast has made that possible. There's a lot of people putting a lot of work into making this sport more progressive and more accessible to everybody at all levels. Of course, most of the support goes into nurturing the next generation and bringing up the kids that are wicked talented. But for little old Bailey, for this guy that thought my athletic career was over when I left McDaniel. By the way, when I went to App, I thought this is me stepping away from from being an athlete. I'm kind of turning in that piece of my identity in pursuit of industrial design, and then got that reignited right away, like 6 months later with mountain biking. And so now I'm 7 years, not quite 6.5 years into this sport, and less than 6 years into this sport. And I'm going to get to do some pro races next year, which is really cool.
That's exciting.
So yeah, and the best part of this sport, I think, and what really drew me in was, you just get to play.
Yeah.
The best
That's
thing,
what it is for me.
The best thing that you can do to get better at downhill or at mountain biking is just go ride your bike.
Yeah.
So
seat time.
Yeah, gymnastics was kind of that, but there was so much strength and conditioning and flexibility and like getting freaking super stretched by, that was required to be successful in that sport. Triathlon, you had to go on long bike rides. You had to go on long runs. It was all endurance. Yes, it was doing the thing, but it's still, you can't compete every day. You can't have the same rush and do the same thing every day. And you had to do cross training. Lacrosse, like I didn't get to play very much. The game, like playing a lacrosse game was like, I loved it. I loved being in game mode, but it was hard to replicate that at practice. And to be successful, I had to do hours and 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 hours of skill drills, gym workouts, strength, cross conditioning, cross training, more boring skill drills, throwing a ball against the wall. Like there's so much more that goes into that sport that is required to be successful in that sport. And you can apply all of those things to mountain biking also. But what is better than any of that, like if you can do one thing to get better at mountain biking, let's go for a bike ride. And that made it for me. People are like, dang, dude, you've progressed really fast. What do you mean you didn't have any previous bike experience? Like, I think I'm nowhere near where I want to be in this sport. I still have a lot of work to do, but I've been mountain biking. I've gone from literally zero to being able to race some pro races next year in downhill in less than 6 years with no major injuries. and I don't care to like knock on wood, whatever. It's not lucky. It's not an accident. It's because I know how to take care of myself and avoid injuries. I've crashed as much as the next guy, but when I crash, I don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So, and I credit that again back to gymnastics, that, body awareness, the mobility, the flexibility that I have, so that when you do hit the ground, you don't splat. There's an old Top Gear was an old car show in Great Britain, and there's a clip of Jeremy Clarkson, one of the hosts, saying, speed never actually killed anybody. It's suddenly coming to a stop that gets you.
Yeah.
And I think that is so true, especially with mountain biking, because it's not if you're gonna crash, like you're gonna crash. It's kind of inevitable. To the point we even joke that there's skill upgrades. Like every time you have a
What do you
huge
learn from it?
it's like, it's like if mountain biking is a video game, every time you crash and walk away, it's like, hey, skill achievement unlocked. You just like you leveled up. And so I always welcomed crashing, but I always knew how to, whenever I knew it was going to go wrong, I was able to, avoid obstacles like rocks and trees that are really going to hurt you, and then find a soft place to land, chuck the bike, screw the bike. If the bike gets hurt, the bike gets hurt. I can't get hurt. Find a soft place to land and then tuck and roll out of it.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep your momentum going and come to a slow, gradual stop, as long as you don't snag a limb on something or twist something in a weird way, chances are you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And I figured that out, and that has helped me progress very fast.
Yeah.
Learning where my limit is on the bike and being able to ride right there, knowing I can assume that much risk and probably be fine.
Yeah.
Has allowed me to stay right up against that progression, and move pretty quick. That paired with fitness, and then in the last couple of years, I've really started training again.
Yeah.
Because I know how to be a full-time athlete. I know how to be a serious athlete. I learned that when I was 5, and I've perfected it. I don't think I'll ever perfect it, but I've deepened that knowledge over the last 20 years, and now finally I get to really go all in and really apply it to racing and to mountain biking. So
bringing all of that back experience, like between the college athletics, studying what you're studying what you did, and then having all of that, like let's bring that into buttoning up, like building the thing you wish you had, of like what we're doing today and how that experience is bringing Kinetic to life.
Definitely. When I started combining my skills of, I've been this athlete for my whole life, and I've studied, and I have this passion for creating things for people, and I'm trying to figure out, what am I missing? What am I missing? Like, I want to create something for people in this space. How do I help more action sports athletes like really embrace being an athlete? Like realize
I didn't even see myself as an athlete.
Right, and you are freaking ripped as hell.
Like, I just do things, I go to the gym because I keep my body out of pain by going to the gym, and I love riding my bike, and I'm like, I just do the thing I love. And you kind of drilled into my brain, hey,
like,
you're an athlete.
You're not just an athlete.
Like, okay, I just like riding my bike.
Right. And that's I think a very common that's a very common mentality in especially mountain biking, but in kind of all of these non-traditional action sports of, I'm just in shape enough because I like riding my bike.
Yeah. But I still I have
and you've got to drive, like racing or not. When I met you, I saw your drive to be better at your sport, but for the love of the sport.
It makes it more fun.
Right. It's like the drive for progression is not competition driven. It's internal. You have a drive to be better, and you are jacked, and you're flexible, and you're mobile, and you're healthy, and your mind works because you move your body and you keep your body in shape.
It takes a lot of work, but it's worth it.
And those are like key markers of a high performing athlete. And so immediately I saw you and was like, she's a high performing athlete. She's a highly athletic individual. And I think you didn't even really know to call it that, but you had all the puzzle pieces. You were doing all the right things. And I learned all of that as what it takes to be an athlete. And so I think when you frame it as, athletics,
Yeah.
it kind of
No, I'm saying it makes
opened
perfect sense,
opens the
but it
door.
also helps, like, even
Yeah.
that just perspective of the big piece of realizing
Mhm.
there's more you can build on, more you can
Definitely.
grow from.
Definitely. And that's where with Kinetic, where Kinetic started about 18 months ago for me. We teamed up, um, and everything that I was missing, you came and filled, and vice versa, I
Mhm.
think. But I knew that I always wanted to run my own business. And I mean, I had a business stringing my teammates lacrosse sticks when I was a kid. I was slinging duct tape wallets out of the back of 6th grade. I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and my career, my corporate career was to learn. I always said I wanted to work at a large enough company to understand what a successful how large successful company works, and to hone my skills as much as I could until I had that entrepreneurial idea of the thing I wanted to start for myself. And it kind of started again. I was in this like space where, you know, I've got this engineering job. I'm not really doing industrial design anymore. I'm really kind of deprived of creativity. I'm not really making anything for people. I was designing tires, but it was more like, I was an engineer. I was more of a data analyst than a designer because I was good at calculus and math, and that paid better, unfortunately. So I'm very like creatively deprived. I need a project, and I want to create something for people. And then I also still have this drive to be an athlete. Like my athletic drive's not going away, even though I'm stuck into what should be a long-term corporate career, starting down that path, and I start to think my initial ideas were, you know, the thing I loved about being, in team sports was the camaraderie and the community that you had. We would have 6 a.m. practice. We'd have to get up at 5 a.m. for 6 a.m. practice in a freaking blizzard in the middle of January in Maryland. And we'd all bounce out of bed at 5 a.m., pumped up, fired up to get to the locker room and get down there together and just get into it, even though it sucked. Because we all did it together. Nobody ever missed a lift. Nobody ever missed conditioning. Nobody ever missed practice. And we were a bunch of college kids doing college kid things, and full course loads. So like the dedication again to something, a larger group than yourself, and the accountability baked into that team mentality, is so valuable and so helpful. And I was really missing that because I wanted to start training for downhill again.
Mm.
At some point along the line, I studied the digital version of industrial design and how to create digital products for people. And it kind of was these two ideas of I want to start my own race team and race with my friends and do racing the way that I want to do it with the people I love riding with. And I want to start an app. I want to build an app or build a digital tool for like training accountability. And I just want a place where like we can all work together. And whether the race team fulfilled that accountability tool, or whether I built an app that became a business, I didn't really know how this was all going to fit, but that was the two ideas. Whether we're all downhill racers or whether we're all just athletes, and, Bobby might have to go run a 5K tomorrow and Bailey might have to go do bench press, we can both chime in and say, hey, I did my thing for the day. And that little tiny snippet of accountability, just knowing that I have to answer to my community. I have to answer to my team. I can't let my team down.
Mhm.
Um, Again, dedicating yourself to something bigger. Is a great way to guarantee that you actually are going to get the result and do the work that you said you needed to do. It's really easy to fall out of line with training and things and not stay on track. So I started having this idea. I started building this race team, but I also wanted to build this app for people because I feel like it would be super valuable. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, like, is this a Facebook group? Is this? I don't know. I don't know how to do this. And then I met you, and you had this. You are an amazing, amazing natural coach. You were working through a certification to learn how to run a coaching business. And I saw that you had the skills to just understand what's going on with somebody on a personal level, on an emotional and mental and mindset level,
Mm.
and really level with them and figure out the nuts and bolts of how can I help you unlock the piece that's stuck so that you can keep moving forward and keep building momentum. Like, okay, so you're going to start a coaching business. Like, I've got this fitness accountability idea. I want to make sure that I want to try to help other adults, you know, realize that they're allowed and encouraged to be athletes and live athletically again. And I want to race my bike. I think we can probably tie all these things together.
Mhm.
And I'm really, really proud of what we've built 18 months later. Because I think we've done it. I think we're this close.
Yeah, kick down that last domino.
Dude, we've been stacking dominoes for 18 months, I swear. Yeah, we're this close to launching exactly the thing that we were trying to build. So with Kinetic, it is equal parts athletic education, community of just rad humans, rad adults doing cool stuff that want to keep leveling up and staying active. And we've got everything from freaking Yale neuroscientists, professional athletes, X Games athletes, physical therapists, nurses, engineers. I don't think we have any doctors yet, but we're close. We've already got a really diverse group of people in the community and what we've built, and we've gotten so much freaking positive feedback that it's kind of blowing me away here that I expected some pushback, and everybody's just pumped that we're bringing such awesome people together to try to be more healthy, more active, and just share what's working and share our stories.
Yeah. Like building the thing we wish we had is
Exactly.
like, what is the reason we're training these body parts? You know, what is the reason we're actually going that extra mile to do a workout and not just do the sport, do the activity? And it's like, well, because what are the things that our bodies could have held us back from if we weren't taking care of our bodies? And so,
Exactly.
you know, being an athlete isn't about a jersey. It's not about the competition. It's about how you get to show up and do things for yourself.
Yeah, and do things together.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like I said, in a world that is so divisive and insulated these days with, well, thankfully I can't find mine, but I was going to say at least, those things do a lot to really drive us apart. And I think, especially with AI and automation and everything's increasingly hard to find real human connections. And I think that is just so important. I think what a lot of platforms like Instagram and other social media platforms have been really good at in the past was finding a way to actually connect with like-minded individuals online. But a lot of these platforms are just pushing so much content down your throat. YouTube, you at least have some choice. You log on to YouTube and you can search and watch and look for what you want. But even Instagram now, the scroll isn't people you follow. It's what the algorithm shows you. TikTok's a mess. Facebook's the same. You open Facebook and it's like, oh my God, why am I, no, thank you. Like, what is this? It's not about connection or shared knowledge anymore. It's all about capturing attention is what it feels like. And that's a gross generalization. There's still a lot of really good educational content out there. There's still a lot of really good community building opportunities on social media, but it's really hard to stay in touch with people, especially when you don't live in the same area. Like we have friends all across the country that we ride with, that we know, that we've met at events that I'd love to stay in touch with. And we're going to travel the country again next summer.
Social media is a good thing. And then it comes down to that love-hate relationship. Yeah. It's like, how do we...
That's a big piece of what I wanted to build with this community is keep it just people that are, interested in our thing. Like just people that do these outdoor hobbies, that want to be athletes for life, that want to do cool stuff and want to help each other do cool stuff. All the posts in there are going to be either people pumping each other up on the cool stuff they did, big achievements that they've had, sharing what worked for them. Hey, did you see this tip or trick that works for this thing? Or educational knowledge that work, and then hopefully everybody gets to contribute what's working for them, and then we all get to improve and learn from it. Like I said, I'm trying. The goal is for it to be a party, not a lecture.
Yeah.
We want to bring in as many people that will genuinely contribute good value to it and help us learn. Because selfishly, I want to learn as much as I can. Yeah. So if I bring in people that know stuff that I don't, I win.
There you go.
And hopefully, and we've
going to be so many. It's such
we've built in a good accountability tool to it as well. And so, like, hopefully, it's just this diverse, like you said, like this diverse network of friends that get to all just compare notes and learn from each other, and share our successes and stay excited about the things that we're doing. So we of course do have some courses where we're getting to share some of our knowledge and our experience back with people as well in the classroom. And so that's a really cool opportunity. I know we both kind of have had tendencies of wanting to be teachers one day. And so I've always kind of thought like, man, I could see myself one day going back to college and being a professor, but I don't really know what I would teach. And this has kind of really given me a great outlet for that, of getting to getting to share and, do deep research, do academic research, pull all my resources that I've studied over my last 20 something years of being an athlete, if you count the early ones as when I was a kid. And you too, like, we can do the deep research and find the knowledge that is rich and share it all in one place. That's easy to find and easy to navigate with other people that maybe are trying to do cool stuff too.
Yeah.
So
And the biggest thing is to like have a place that it's one, you're going to have a network of people that help hold you accountable, keep you consistent, and keep you motivated. Just getting to share other people's perspective and seeing, if you're dealing with one thing, you're probably not the only one that's dealt with it. So you get to put it up in the community and find out, how did somebody else get through this roadblock, whether it be nutrition drop, if it's something on, hey, your body aches in this certain way, what have other people dealt with if they're dealing with this same sport and they want to overcome this, like what exercise helped them. And that's kind of what I talked about last week, of realizing the way the body works is usually there's just a certain workout you get to do to correct an imbalance if something is in pain and hurting. Like there is a physical solution to it. And so it's just bringing that space to open that conversation and help people build momentum and keep rolling. And I don't know, I think that's kind of a good place to try to wrap things up, is like seeing what would you say to somebody that has possibly like lost momentum or lost confidence in that sport or activity they're trying to do?
just do what you can and try to show up every day.
Yeah.
Just show up every day. It's the best thing. Just show up. You just got to start.
Figure out how to get your body moving.
Yeah, exactly. And so you just got to start, and you find, man, some of these people are pretty cool. Man, I kind of like some of the stuff that's pretty motivational stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that doesn't seem too hard. Maybe I'll just do a little bit. Maybe I'll just do a little bit. Maybe I'll just do a little bit more. And all of those little bits, just by showing up every day, compound. And before you know it, you've actually built a pretty solid base.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep that momentum going. Just whether it's, like we say, like we ended up working way too late last night. I worked straight through when I was supposed to have gone to the gym. And we said, nope, we're not going to bed without moving. We went for a 15-minute walk around the block last night just to get outside, get some fresh air, get some movement in. So we didn't sit at our desks literally all day and then go back to sleep.
Yep.
And if that's all you can do, like that's all we had time for, that's all we could do that day. Like did a little bit of stretching, did some pull-ups in between, but like if that's all you got, that's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever you are, wherever you're at, just start and keep showing up. So, if you want some accountability, if you want some people to show up with, check it out.
You might like it a little bit.
You might like it. That's what we hope to build, is just a place where people can show up online. And so you don't have to, everybody has their own thing that they're training for. Everybody has their own training plan. Everybody's body's different. Everybody's nutrition's different. Everybody goes to a different gym. Half the people, and we have people literally all the way across the country now. And we're all connected in this group, and we all have this common drive to help each other improve our athletic knowledge and our fitness, so that we can continue doing cool shit forever, hopefully. And don't think that it's just people just getting off the ground either. I mean, we have a friend, CJ, out in Colorado that ruptured his bicep, that was just posting. He's less than 3 months literally tore his bicep in half less than 3 months ago, and was doing pull-ups, like posted in the community the other day, like, hey, I'm back doing pull-ups. I'm riding dirt jumps. He's like doing big stuff, and it all is because of the work he puts in the gym. We've got another friend in there that is battling with knee issues, loves playing paintball, has been mountain biking a good bit, and he's not just waiting around for his next knee surgery. He's like training for his next knee surgery so that it doesn't take him out. Mm-hmm. He posted a video the other day of him like leg pressing almost 1,000 pounds. So, that's crazy. Well, yes, we preach like do what you can, even if it's a tiny little dose. There's still people doing crazy, awesome, really, really impressive stuff too, and everything in between. So the goal is for us all to really find what is the highest level of athleticism that we can achieve in our lives. Yeah. Like, what is the coolest thing that you want to do that, I don't know, that seems really ambitious. I don't think it is. Work towards it. What is it going to take? And that's kind of what, like for me, like I would love to see if I could race a World Cup downhill race one day. Love to. I don't know if that's attainable, but I'm not going to know if I don't try. Yeah. And I'm certainly not going to know if I don't focus my efforts into trying to figure that out. And so anybody that has a equally ambitious or parallel different goal, I hope that the inner circle and that KinetiQ itself can be a place where you come get the answer to that question. Could I actually achieve that? Could I do that? Like, let's figure that out. What would that look like?
Yeah. It's like just getting into new things. It's like when I first got on the road, getting heavier into mountain biking, getting heavier into hiking, and just figuring it out as I went. And, crossing paths with a friend who was just as adventurous as I was, it helped me see how much more potential there was and how much more we could do and how much we could grow off of each other's enthusiasm for the thing we wanted to do. And it's, an athletic pursuit comes up and it's, can I do that? Actually, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. I don't think I'm going to be held back. I think I want to go do that activity because that seems like a lot of fun. So it's not, I feel like that's the one place that we are different is like yours is very, very racing focused and I'm just
for now.
Yeah.
I also want to run marathons, and there's a lot of other athletic goals that I have for my future. Downhill's just the immediate, but again, it's the same thing of keeping yourself in good enough shape to do whatever adventure pops up. To be able to say yes to any kind of cool things that your friends say, hey, you want to go, like a couple years ago, you had a friend that was like, hey, you want to go hike rim to rim at the Grand Canyon on Thanksgiving? And you were like,
we came up with that plan together.
But still, but you didn't train. That's like a thing that people train for. And you guys just went and did it because you keep yourself that fit. And that's the goal really, is to stay functionally fit enough to do whatever cool opportunities might arise, whether it's something premeditated as racing downhill at a high level or as quick as, going on one of Jeff's crazy scavenger hunts or, hiking the Grand Canyon or whatnot. So
it all comes together.
It all builds on each other and it all works together. So.
And then wrap it up on that note. I'll say thank you for sharing your whole backstory that got to bring all the bells and whistles together of we get to pick Pat's brain next week. So
that's going to be a fun one.
One of the initial people that helped introduce mountain biking into Bailey's life. He
absolutely
is an impressive human for a lot of reasons, but you know him much better than I do. So I love all the things you have to say. And on my perspective, I'm excited to just pick his brain on where he was, where he is now. And
absolutely. That's a perfect way to wrap this up, I guess. Pat's a good friend of mine. Raced a lot of downhill and then has just been a two-wheel enthusiast his whole life, loves bicycles, dedicated, kind of went on his own journey in parallel to us building this community. I watched Pat struggle with work stress and unhealthy habits, and he really got pretty overweight for a while, and I saw him get really stressed out and just was really up and down, really unhealthy. And then over this last year, really impressive to see what he's been able to accomplish and really turn around. And I'm excited to pick his brain next week on the podcast to kind of get into some of the nuts and bolts on how he's achieved that transformation and come back. And he genuinely seems healthier and happier than he's ever been in his life. And I think he'll confirm that next week. So really excited to pick his brain and share a bit of his stories. So if you're online, if you're on KinetiQ, if you're in the inner circle, you guys are welcome to join us live next Wednesday at 6:00 Eastern time. We're going to be live in the inner circle with Pat. So if you have questions, if you want to join the conversation online, jump in and join us then. If not, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel or save this podcast on Spotify so that you won't miss any further episodes, especially next week with Pat. Also, while you're at it, if you haven't seen our first episode with Casey Gracia, who's a Yale neuroscientist, we picked her brain a lot about the intersection of kind of neuroscience and athleticism in our first episode. And then last week, I had Allie in the hot seat and we got to hear her backstory. So if you haven't listened to those episodes.
It's the bike-focused backstory, but it was the backstory.
Yeah. The athletic backstory.
Yeah.
With that, I don't know. Should we get out of here?
Yeah, I guess so.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. It's been fun. We'll see you next week.